Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. This is our map and image creation inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity. I'm Josh, so thanks everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Um, I will have a little disclaimer here. I still have a pretty severe cold. If I sound funny or if I mute, it's because I have to blow my nose or do something that probably will not be so good to listen to. Um, Also, what we can do is we'll go over our release for this month, which is another completed maps pack. Um, and this one actually connect. Let's actually let me jump right over in here. So these ones actually connect to the previous map pack that came out. I wonder if I have that like a demonstration here. No, these are old ones. But here is all of the maps kind of put together. Let me close this down. And you can see here this is just a continuation. Each one of these is its own little entity here. So these can be used all on their own or in conjunction with the other maps as well. And as you can see here, you can kind of just hop back up into the first one. And these are all numbered and laid out in such a way where you can kind of see these all just snap together seamlessly here. So you can create one giant construct here. And we're going to continue on this. I'm going to do a few of these, and they'll all be like part of this massive kind of ecosystem here. It all just kind of works together and fits seamlessly together, as you can see here. So we have everything. And as I said, what I try to do, and excuse me if I don't have yeah. And you can add to these too. What I've done is I've created all of these with the art assets. So everything that you want to do, you can easily add to them. And again, I apologize. I have some pretty severe cold medicine going on, so I can try to get through this stream. So if I blank out or if my um, normal verbiage isn't quite what it typically is, so I apologize there. But yes, so it's all a cohesive system and kind of goes from one area to the next. And in addition to that, I'm going to be doing a bunch of interior or underground dungeon type ones as well, which should be pretty great. So the first thing that we want to do is I'm going to go back to the one that we were working on last time, and I actually want to do some quick lighting and go over some of the lighting system in this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to generate, and I'm just going to go down to my base here, and I'm going to generate my line of sight so that I have this to kind of interact with. And as I've made some minor adjustments on this particular map, we can adjust this really quickly here. I'm just going to do these ones, and we can kind of move these over. And again, if we hold down Control, it'll snap to the grid system. If you need to use greater control, all you have to do is change your grid momentarily so you can kind of move these around, interact with the system this way. Super easy to do. As you can see here, we kind of snap everything right in place. Yeah, I agree completely, FGA. I think that what you want to have is a level of, and I'm always working on finding the appropriate level of narrative versus overly presumptuous, right? You want the area to feel kind of believable, but also generic enough that you can kind of use it in every scenario possible, um, so that it's not too intrusive in its design, but yet still conveys a lot of visual information um, that is kind of generic to the area, right? So if you're doing a forest, for example, the shrubs and the ground textures and all of the little incidental elements that have no true bearing on the narrative kind of makes it feel a little bit more like a lived-in space. All right, well, with our basic setup here done, and what we can do now is go over into our main tab here, our playing tab, and we can turn on our lights. The first thing that you're going to notice is that we don't really have, can't really see anything. So the first thing that I like to do in this kind of scenario, and I'm going to put all of my lights on the same as my wall layer here, just for the demonstration. I'm going to turn on my ambient light. And I like to use a small amount of ambient light regardless of an interior or exterior. And the reason for that is I like to create a lot of like mood lighting. The way that Fantasy Grounds is set up is that the lighting system interacts based off of the rule set with the play mechanics as well. So things get viewed if there's only enough light to see them. So you can still do a lot of ambient kind of lighting effects that really have no bearing on the gameplay, but just add a theatrical kind of element to it. So the first thing what we can kind of do here is we're going to turn this on, and I'll just make this like, well, I'm going to make it a color, something, maybe something like this, and then I can bring down the opacity. And what that actually does is brings down the intensity of this light, right? So what we're actually going to do here, as you can see, we're just going to create this ambient kind of light. And I'm only going to be using this to help set up my initial kind of lighting system, and then I'm going to turn this off. So we don't have to worry about like if we have shadows or anything along those lines. I don't really, none of that is super important to me. I'm just going to be using this like a general kind of tool here. Then we go into our lights. We have a whole bunch of preset lights. I like to start off with maybe like torch, for example. Some of the distances might change depending on your rule set, because this is all going to be set up based off of your rule set and the dynamics of what that should be implied based off of your grid system. So all of our measurement systems inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity in the image workspace is based off of the grid. So manipulating that grid throughout can really make things a little bit easier on you, or have a little bit more control. And you can always change these later. So if we look at this, for example, this is going to tell us 4 squares. So whatever we have our grid set to, it's going to do 4 squares of bright and 8 of dim. Our fall off is how much we have as a gradient from one position to the next. So from bright to dim, and then dim to none at all. And then we have our flicker and so on. So with this selected, all I have to do is just put something down on the map, click on the map here, and it will create this for us. Now the way that this works is that our system is completely based off of an additive light system. So with this small amount of light that we have going on in the background, it's going to adjust our colors and whatnot. You see here, I can start stamping on all of these images. And if I want to make any sort of adjustments to this after the fact, I certainly can. I think that that's all of the torches that were down initially. So we'll just leave that for there. And now I'm going to go back into my ambient light and I'm going to turn that off. You can see that this is what we kind of see here now. I'm going to go over to my select light tool and I can select all of these at the same time. Because these are all exactly the same, I can use this selection method and manipulate these all at once here. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to lower down, regardless of the rules, I'm just going to do this to be a more of an ambient kind of scenario here. So let's make that maybe something like 2. And let's increase our fall off here, maybe something like 50. Then we're going to get these interactions here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to adjust the color here. And maybe we're going to make it a little bit more on the orange side. You see what happens here is as these colors interact with each other, and let's make them maybe something like nice orange. And again, we can lower down the opacity of these. You can see how these interact. Wherever they're going to cross over is where these elements are going to interact with that system. Right? And as I said before, this is an additive kind of system. Also gonna let's change the fall off to 100. So the higher the fall off, the more of a gradient that we have here. And you can see if I select this one as I move it around here, we're getting this interaction where these kind of overlap here. So this one specifically, I think what I'll do is I'll increase the size of that. Make that. Oh no, let's make it 3. And if we want to have further interactions with the system, I can go back into this area. Let's do maybe some terrain elements for these guys. We should probably actually make these more about the base object. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the terrain element here, what it does is we're not doing this to act. What it does is it allows us to see the object and then kind of what goes. It blocks the vision and the lighting from behind the object, but it allows it to go into the object itself. So it allows us to see that object. Great. So basically, the way that this functions is, as you can see here, we have these nice kind of gradients as this fades off into the darkness. Now, in these areas, you can hide NPCs, and until a player were to enter into that area with its own light source or had some sort of vision, that would remain hidden to them and would not be revealed. So this works in tandem with all of the other systems here. You can see we have some really nice the way this kind of creates this ambience for the entire area. Turn this off completely here. And we can also mask out our ambient lights. And you can do like interior. All right, so in some of these other areas, what we can actually do here, like maybe over in this area, is we can create some additional light sources. Let's make sure that we our flicker. Go back and check these. Yeah, we have something going on. One of the things that I like to do to is change the flicker speed so it's not so uniform. So here we have it set to 25. Maybe we'll make this one like 36. And we can make this one maybe like 15. And just do like some random variations here. If we were to lower these down in the sizes here, maybe we'll make them like by 6, like 1, and you'll be able to see here a little bit more of a, make this like, I think that if we make this 0, you'll see the flicker on the edges here a bit more. See how this kind of interacts here. And let's increase this fall off, maybe something like this, and then let's lower this one down too. We have these nice kind of gradient changes here. And I don't want these to really interact as much. I think we'll do like 3.5, like this. And then I'll just lower this one down. Maybe we'll make this one 3. So we don't get as much overlap here. And then what I'll actually do to kind of build out some of these areas in here, we can even increase this to maybe like 2.5. Well, let's put on all of them. And let's reduce down maybe something like this. And then what I'll do is come back in. We can create some very, very subtle elements as well. So let's change the color. Maybe something like this. And I'll drop something in here. Now what I'll actually do is begin to adjust this. I think we want our brightness to be completely 0. And we're just going to have this like these ambient kind of light sources that are going to interact. I think we'll change the color here. Do something a little bit more. Well, we want to keep it kind of cool here. Yeah, maybe we'll do it something like this. Oh, really, Drake? Oh, that's terrible. Layron. Yeah, the COVID. I had COVID back when the first. I think I had it twice during the lockdown. I haven't since. And now I'm going to adjust this. Let's bring this down to something like 6. And see what I can do is I can actually create these little kind of ambient elements that are not going to be super intrusive on my other lights here. I think what I'll do is let's experiment with this a little bit. Yeah, let's do something like that. We'll do 50 and 50. I'm going to change all of these so that we have a little uniform. And then with something like this, I'm gonna actually like duplicate that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab this hexadecimal code. Then I can come back in here. I can hit Control V. And then let's make some of the same kind of adjustments that we have there. So I'm going to make this 0, this 6. And then in some of these areas, maybe like over in here, I can start to add this. And you can see what this does. You see this rather very subtle. We can start to blend this in with some of our other kind of surroundings here. But this is not going to be bright enough to actually reveal monsters or anything along those lines. This is just very low level ambient kind of lighting. You don't have to buy this map. I'll put this up on the forge for free. But yeah, all the lighting and everything will be right in there. So as we begin to do this, you can actually start to use your lighting to create mood or atmosphere, everything along those lines. So if we were to create another one of these, let's do like 2, you can see how this overlaps here. And we start to create these really cool interactive areas, something like this, where you get these examples of focal points where these things kind of overlap. And we can even maybe put something like this where we get a little bit of our, I believe that there is 2 ways here, right? Another another way here. So what I would actually do, you can see there's a little bit of interaction here with the effects layer. Go into our effects layer. I'm going to go to light area here. Make sure that this here, back into lighting tab here. And again, what this does is you can see these creates these really kind of cool interactive environments. I'll actually probably grab these and make it down to like 5. See, where you place these can be pretty important. Very cool. Now we can always switch back over and I can turn off that. So this would be my GM view of the area. Okay, so I'd be able to see everything. But this would be our player's view. If we were to grab a character from the combat tracker, we can drop them in here, explore, and this is how they would actually see the environment. I think what I'll do is I'll go back into mode and let's flickers. So we'll get not as much of a, yeah, I do the same thing, Drake. Same thing. So here we'll have different, this one's pretty close to the other one. Let's make 7. I just like to create a little bit of variations. And here we might do some of these other elements like this. And then we can do specialized ones, right? Like in this room, for example. Let's create this room, and then we'll move on. We're actually gonna start making some sci-fi maps today, which was requested last time. So we can grab this one. Let's change its color. Maybe we'll make it a little bit more like purple. And let's increase this, maybe something like that. I want it to kind of like bleed off into these areas. You can see if I add this, it's all additive. Now, I think what I'll do is move this over here, and we're going to add in, I want to do a little bit more of a little bit of a kind of like spotlight down here. Now that one's a little bit too much. So I'm just going to select this, and then I can come down here, and the easiest way to do this, you can make it darker, but you can just lower down the opacity. And we'll also change it. I think we're going to make it a little bit more yellow side. Some. Then we'll lower down size here to something like that. And again, what I can do is I could grab this decimal code, come back into here, and I might want to, because remember we have these guys in the corner, and I'll select these both at once, and we'll drop that down to something like 3. And then we're going to have to go into our effects tab because our effects is kind of superseding trying to achieve here. So go back and we'll turn off this for the moment. And let's go into our effects tab here. And we're going to back off. We may even want to do it well. Another thing that we could do instead is we can just bring this up, maybe 5 or less than true. So there we have it. And what I would actually do is jump over here, Julie, kind of see these very, very minorly. We can go into our effects tab here and or what we're trying to achieve here. Excuse me, I had to mute myself there for a moment. But yeah, very, very cool stuff. We could even do something similar if you wanted to have like color coded little elements on these guys. You certainly could do that as well. And you can do that a couple of different ways. You could use an effects layer, or you could use it in the lighting system as well. Great. So that's the kind of the basic of setting up some really cool kind of ambient lighting elements, as well as actual lighting for your environments. And this is going to come in really handy. And one of the reasons why I wanted to touch on this before we start creating a sci-fi map is that lights become a much more of a narrative tool or tool that makes the environment a little bit more believable when we get into electric lighting and neon stuff and along those. We can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. Great. I'm just going to turn that off and we'll close this down. Now we're going to start creating like a little sci-fi environment. So what we had talked about is doing like an alleyway or some buildings and whatnot, some sci-fi kind of environments. So we're going to start building that. I'm going to open up my image panel here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create an item, and that's going to pop this up for me, and then I can close down that window. Fan this out here. And we'll call this one sci-fi. And we'll go into, first thing I'm going to do is make this 100 by 100. And I'm going to lower down the opacity of my grid system. And then we're going to start to bring together the different art packages that we're going to be using. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So what we're going to do is kind of figure out what is the environment by which, firstly, like the narrative of the scene is going to help dictate a lot of stuff here, right? Are we going to be doing like a rather urban environment? Is it like how futuristic do we want to make it? All of those kinds of things kind of play into this. I'll show you a lot of the standardized kind of stuff that we have already. We can use and change to fit pretty much any need that we want to currently. But let's go into a painting tab, and I'll just create a new painting layer. And this is going to be like our base. One of the things that I like to do first is kind of create that foundation from which to build. And as we did last time, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to be using my painting tools at first, color fill. And I don't want to do this just like black and white, a little bit too intrusive on my eyes. So we'll do something like light blue. We'll use this to kind of block out what we're going to be creating, and then we can kind of just use it as a guide and follow it along to completion of what we're actually trying to achieve. So the request last week was to do like a sci-fi city area, like streets and whatnot. Maybe we'll do an alleyway. If we have time, maybe we'll dive in, do some interiors, but maybe we'll do that. But what we're going to do is switch over to our rectangle tool. I'm just going to block out. Well, we can do this a couple of different ways. We can either block out where the buildings are, but let's actually do the streets. Yeah, let's do the streets. So if we're thinking about this in classic terms, they're probably going to be what? Quite wide. We'll do like a couple of main ones. We'll just do like a section of a street, something like this. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 wide. Put 8 wide. And then it'll give us some room. We'll do like a sidewalk, and we'll do that kind of thing. I'm going to switch back over to my painting tools here, and I'm going to switch to additive. And then we can do a section of street coming down this way, and we'll do this one a bit narrower. And then let's do one this way. Yeah, maybe something like that. And then we can do like a T up here as well. And then or maybe what we can do is do like a curved section here. I think might be good. Let's switch over to the ellipse tool here. What am I actually going to do here is we'll do like a nice like kind of curve. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a nice like circular element until I get to about where I want it to be, something like that. And this is going to be the curve that I'm going to kind of follow along here. We can grab this and snap it back into place. And then what I can do from here is I can do something similar, right? And I can go to subtract. And maybe from here, I might have to redo that section. Actually, we know what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. And I'm just going to move it up to here. Grab that again later. And with our subtraction here, I'm going to try and subtract out what I want to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this. We can move it right over to here. And once I have a pretty good base of what I'm going to be trying to achieve, we want to make sure we want to maintain this to be quite similar. Kind of just, then we want this to flatten out, I think. Snapping to the grid here. And again, we want to maintain this to be like this one. If we were to be here, we can delete these. That's a little bit too, something like that. Might maybe wants to be here. Once I have these in a pretty good proximity to where I want them to be, I'll be able to just use that as a guide when I'm actually creating my own elements. And now I can come back in. We can switch back over to additive. And again, I think what we'll do is we'll do like a nice bit. Kind of, we might as well bring it down. That one. Great. So here's our street. And then we'll build in some buildings. We'll do some cool stuff along this way and maybe some along that way. That. Good. And in addition to that, just this, we'll do like an overall general size of what we're going to be creating here. And you certainly don't ever have to plan things out like this, but it's always, or probably is, a pretty good idea. We'll say that our whole map is going to be something this size. Yeah, that should be good. This color is a little bit too much contrast here. Let's darken that color up a little bit. That'll be a little bit better for it, visually speaking. And now I'm going to create a folder. I call this my base, like my template by which I'm going to kind of adhere to. By putting this in a folder, it allows me to interact with all of those elements that are in there. So if I wanted to tighten this up, be the same. We can kind of do that. Let's let's excellent. And we could even go in further and kind of block out some other things, but I think that's going to be all that we really. Right, so now let's create a new painting layer. And from here, what we're actually going to do is start to build up these other elements. Now, normally what I would do is put down like this base from which that we build on top of. It would be like a ground element or something along those lines. But in this particular instance, I think that we can kind of do that later on if we need it. It might be better for us to build out begin to rough out our buildings, and then do our street, and then from that we could add in any other kind of stuff that we want to do here, because we're going to do like sidewalks and so on. So there may not be a whole lot of left to do like this base kind of layer down. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're gonna go into our modern and our sci-fi elements, and we're going to look at the different images that we can kind of grab and start to pick out what might be the most effective for us in this kind of scenario. And we can use the both of those, and we can create some really cool kind of like modern sci-fi kind of stuff. Let's go into our sci-fi interiors, and here we have a whole bunch of different like consoles and pipes, but we also have rather like these, I guess, interesting kind of wall elements that we can kind of use. Excuse me one second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, all you have to do to change the colors, it depends on the scenario that you're using. If you have an image loaded up, and I can just show this really quickly, go into our decorations, we'll grab something that's light so you can kind of see this in our stamp tool. So here we have like this, a cupboard. If I hold down R, I can use the mouse wheel to interact with the red value. If I hold G, the green value, RGB here. B, the blue value. So if I reduce the blue value, it makes it more yellow. And then A will do the opacity. Now we're going to do a sci-fi map. So R, G, and B in the painting tools will change the colors, whatever it is that you're, and the mouse wheel. Now after you've done a fill layer, you can go into the edit fill layer, and then here we can do exactly the same thing, but you have to be hovering over these elements. You can use same system after it's been applied. And that only works with fills. Edit fill layer. Okay, so we have floors as well, and we have a whole bunch of different generic kind of floors that we can use. Rather industrial looking. But I like to use these in conjunction with a lot of other things here. And we're going to kind of like work through all of these different kind of elements together, build some. So you can see here is, why don't I just drag this out? As you can see here, we have some nice that we used like these floor elements in conjunction with each other, creating some different areas. We have made like this like a little waiting room, like a cryogenic facility. So what we're going to do here is we'll just kind of rough out Elements. I think we'll use actually look in our modern. We have so many different wall elements and floor elements. We have modern houses. And see, all of these things can be used in lots of different ways. We have a nice concrete floor and tiles. These are all just decorations and whatnot. And here we have other elements that you might want to just grab. Like these circular ones, these might work out pretty good for us. I wonder. Yeah, we might be able to like that. What kind of city are you thinking about, Big Bad? I think let's do our first one. Just kind of uh, move a couple of these things out, and then we can kind of hold on. I think I'm going to sneeze. One moment. Sorry about that. As far as like we could do a space station for sure. As far as like a fantasy style one, yeah, you those are pretty easy to do. If you go into the I think it's let me set this up first and then I'll look for you. I think we'll grab something that's a little bit use this one. I'm just gonna grab this. I'm gonna hold down control and snap to this grid. We can kind of move this later. Yeah, we can actually map this up to our grid pretty well here. Pretty well. We may want to change our corner type from bevel, maybe even rounded. Rounded. We'll give a little bit more of a leeway over here for our sidewalks. Why don't we bring this all the way here? Good. Which means we should keep that in mind that we're going to do all of this kind of stuff around it as well. But we actually have an art package that is specifically designed for making those kinds of things, depending on the scale that you're thinking about. If you're just trying to do like an overland map, we have we've done some here. So here's one that we made a while back. So is this the kind of thing that you're thinking of? Here we have like a castle that we put together and lots of other elements. Yeah, but is this the kind of scale that you're thinking of? As far as like the scale as, yeah, for sure. If we go into the settlement pack, here we have lots of stuff for that. And there's some really cool like pre-made like groupings, and you can just kind of grab and do these. Yeah, for sure. We can build another one of those. Those are always super. Let's so what we'll do is we'll build out a couple of these structures, and we're gonna kind of build this up from here. I'm gonna do these based on that we're gonna be doing an interior, but we'll get the street and the outside environment kind of done today. Let's go back into our sci-fi interiors here, and I'm gonna do a couple of different. We'll do good, and we'll go into our floors here. And then here we're actually doing like 3 or 4 edge. We'll start to block out some. And what we can actually do is a bit of a circular element here, but we can do the rectangle first. I think we'll do maybe this all. Now we can make the adjustments where we want these placed. And any of these that we feel we don't really need, we can just delete them. That should be pretty good shape for us. I think what I'll do is to kind of separate these around. Let's make this one a little bit larger. And we can also kind of darken that up a little. Maybe we'll even rotate. And these will just be our placeholders. As I said before, we're going to be building elements out here. And we can do the same exact scenario over here. What I'm actually going to do is going to use the line tool on this one. Show you how you can do it this way. And let's this a little bit more plain. And I'm going to hold down Control. And I'm just going to something like this, and then I can come back in and back here, over. Now you could add in a whole bunch more that if you wanted to. I'm going to come here and this. This way. Color. Now we have a clear kind of understanding of what each of our main shapes that we're going to have on the exterior. I mean, for their interior. Great. Now from here, what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to create a new, and this we'll call this one buildings. Create a new painting layer. We're going to drop this now underneath. And I'm actually going to build out my sidewalks here, and then main here. I might actually want to that a little bit wider. Like that. So we have these sidewalks from our abandoned places, but I don't think that's really going to do it for us. So we're going to actually build our own. Now, do you think that, what kind of material do you think would be, I mean, do you think it would be like a concrete? What do you guys think? I'm actually going to lower down the opacity. Do you think it'd be like industrial grading? What do you guys think would be the primary construct out? Steel grates? Do you think that they would be attached to, do you think the whole thing would be very industrial, or do you think that it's would be like the concrete element as well? I think what we'll need to do, largely industrial. Judge Dredd? Yeah, we could like not super sci-fi, just a little bit in the future. Judge Dredd would definitely be very grungy, right? Lots of trash and would be very not well kept. Why don't we do like a combination of? So we can go into if we just type in concrete. We have all kinds of different concrete kind of elements here. As you can see here, this would be very worn, but then we also have like these concrete kind of elements as well from modern industrial. I think what we'll do is we'll do like a concrete kind of base, and then we'll do some industrial grading over the top of it. I'm going to do something, yeah, we'll do something like this. This is from Modern Industrial. Sure, if we're going to do like a dread idea, we might want to rethink our buildings a little bit. If we're going to make it a little bit more, um, um, I guess it would be almost like cyberpunky, like that feel. But we'll go with this here, and we're going to go back into our fill element. Drop that right there. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use like a concrete element as well for the edge here for like the curb. And then we can actually paint on some additional elements if we want to as well. We'll use this darker element. So in the same way that we did before, we'll make sure that we have our rounded edge here. I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to divide these up. I'm going to do, I want to separate these a little bit because if we want to add in some elements like drainage grates and whatnot, we might want to have some separation between the curb, which is like the edge, and then the flat spot. And then what we can actually do is kind of place some different elements on. So I'm going to go into my rectangle here. Still have it's gonna just do like a bit of a fill element. We'll do it. like there. Or maybe what we should actually do is fill the whole bottom. As you can see here, there's a little bit of separation here, but I think that's going to work in our favor. And I'm actually going to grab this and I'm going to put this on top. I can build out some of the other elements here. But let's go in here. I'm going to make this a bit bigger and I'm going to oh, I think I want to see we have like cool great. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to create another painting layer. We'll put that here. And now we'll switch back over, turn off our fill, we'll turn on our stroke here. I'm going to switch over to my line tool. Here. And we don't have to follow the same exactly. I want to get that feel. That. The more little points that you want to put into this, the more you can more exact about the shape that you're trying to create. Yeah, worked pretty well. And I'm actually gonna change this a little bit to match. And you can kind of go back and forth, right? Like I can come back in here and actually change the shape of my building as well. I want to maintain some sort of consistency throughout. I think something like that's enough. Now we could actually just build from here. We could actually paint on any of the elements that we want to. We want to make this a little bit more futuristic rather than modern. So we're going to add in some additional kind of elements there. But it's a pretty good base for us to start off here. Now we have all kinds of different great elements. Depending on how we want to um, out here. Let's turn off our stroke now. Add in something like this. See? Now I'm going to do this on the same layer that I have curve elements. Now if I want to, let's here. You could do these kind of, maybe what we want to do though is, or see how that looks. That one again. I think we can do it from, then we can just connect all that. And we can simplify this a bit. Take out the ones we don't need. Yeah, something like that. Pretty good. Also move this one. Probably get a little bit closer to. So something like this. And then we can, well, Yeah, that works pretty well. And then what I'll do is I'll just come in here. We have some strangeness there. We can just, this is all one layer now. We can adjust the sides of it all together. Patience. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. No, you wouldn't have to create separate layers. I intentionally put them all together with the add element. All you'd have to do is create switch over to your normal, and each one of these that you created would be its own entity, and you could adjust them individually. Yeah, you bet. Great. I think we can actually get rid of this now. Don't need this anymore. Or little element there. That was kind of our guide. And now we can kind of go in and start to build up some of this other stuff. Now there's a couple of different things that we can kind of do here, depending on how we want to interact with the system. So let's say, for example, we decided that we're just going to simplify this as much as possible. Well, we can do a few different things here, kind of create the elements that we want to, right? So let's say we wanted to um, change the color of our road here. We don't want to add in any additional kind of paint elements. We can create an effects layer. And let's do change, adjust colors here, not night vision, adjust color. And here we can lower down our brightness, right? We're going to make it like a little bit of a darker road here. And then we can add a mask. We're going to drop this down, be underneath here. Now this is a little bit too dark. You can see that we have a little bit the same color as our curb here. Let's increase it here a little bit. We go. And let's do we could do an additional one as well. On this particular layer, we could actually do more textury kind of stuff, which we'll do here in a moment. We're going to want to do some things on top. And another thing that you can do is on these layers that we did, um, these ones, we could have done a stroke element to it, which could have created like a little bit of a ridge, and we can still add that. Right? We have a that guide that we can kind of go to. So if we turn this off, for example, and we switch back over to our stroke, grab something like let's actually do it a little bit below it. No, we could do it above it. Like this here. As you can see, we could create some really cool multi elements. And I'm just gonna follow the same pattern that I did before. And that's why using the grid can be really helpful. Because now holding down control, I'm just snapping to the grid like that. Creating some nice edges to these. Yeah, it's starting to take shape here. Now let's go back down into, we have this adjust colors, but on the same painting layer, another thing that we can go into is in our regional map pack, we have some really cool lines. They're intended originally for doing like borders and whatnot, but I found them to be very, very useful in lots of different ways here. So in our regional map pack here, go into our brushes. You can see we have like these border lines, but a bunch of them, these dotted lines and whatnot, one's a little bit scuffed up. See here? But we can use these for our painted lines on our road here. So what we can actually do is change its color here, and we'll lower down our opacity here. And maybe we'll make it a bit wider here. That wide? Yeah. Might even want to use where this is going to be like more like futuristic. Maybe we'll do like a different kind of pattern. Something this. Maybe we'll do like a different color. Get a little bit more this. We'll lower down the opacity here a little bit. Oh yeah, we should do it pink. Let's do it pink. Cool. Yeah. What we can do now is start to build out. I think before we go too much further, what I want to do is a little bit of shadow information. And so I think what we'll do is I'll just create one more effects layer. Do this adjust colors. Like this. We'll blur this out a bit. That back a little. I want to make sure that that doesn't seem like it's too too raised, right? We may even want to do a little bit kind of coming out anyway, maybe like a small. Much more subtle. A little hint of it. Yeah, pretty good. See, that just gives us a little bit of that feeling that there's actually some depth there. Now we can go up into here. And I think in our modern, yeah, we have some different, we can create some grates, like for like some drainage. I think we can use something like this. Or we could do, this is what we've been using. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just cut out a little section of that. Turn our stroke off. And we'll go down onto this painting layer here. This one, we'll actually create a new painting layer, drop it underneath. We'll call this one curb rate. Oh yeah, you bet. Take care, buddy. And then we can just draw it like a little section. See, something like this. We can actually make that like bigger. I want to do it on this layer. I do it on this layer. We might want to do yeah, like that. we could do some these kinds of things. I wonder if there was one. I seem to remember at one point making one that's like for like a heating vent. Might be in the modern industrial. I think it would be in the second one. Ooh, but we could use something like this for sure. And then we could kind of stamp them. Well, I suppose that's something else that we could make up. I think we'll go with this one just because it'll be a lot easier for us to stamp it around. Even though I think this one kind of looks better. We actually have some manholes. One like here. Perfect. Now we can go into let's go into the winter art package. And then from here on this particular layer, we'll add some textures. I like to use the winter art package because it allows me full control over the color. Now, even though I have lots of other textures that are kind of pre-made for specific purposes. So we can kind of go into this one. We'll go to our effects. I'll grab maybe something like this. Over, we want that. What I'll do is I'll lower down the opacity. Let's make it color variations like this. Maybe we'll make it even darker. You see what it does is it just creates um, this feeling that stuff has happened here, right? We could even do lighter ones, create some additional kind of changes in the color. You can see how much that really adds the overall feeling of the environment, especially if we're going to be making like this kind of like this grimy kind of Judge Dredd cyberpunk environment here. We'll be doing like signs sticking off of these buildings. Well, now we do have all kinds of cool like trash, right? So we can do some really cool stuff on here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'll create another layer. We'll put this above this. This will be all the stuff that we're going to be putting up. We want below our building layer, but out here. Even if we take away our buildings, you can see we have a pretty good understanding of the shapes and everything that we're kind of creating here. Super cool. So here we have lots of different bits of debris, right? We can start to place some of this stuff around. We got these like trash piles and whatnot. Bags of trash like hanging out there. Debris. Or actually, we should put it in like probably they wouldn't have like regular signs, right? We'll do like these kinds of signs we can put up. And then we can make these seem like they're lit up and stuff. We'll actually do this on a layer above. As if this was a bit higher above the street. Let's see here. Let's put it on like this. Those of you guys have any suggestions, please throw them into chat. Yeah, we're starting to set up some stuff here. I think it's starting to work pretty well. Hey, what's up, person guy? We'll do like these posts on corners. we're building a kind of futuristic Judge Dreddy street. Do these like little posts along here. We're gonna do like lots of cool lighting stuff. We should be able to do some, and I can actually show you guys how you can do a lot of cool lighting effects with the effects layers, not just the lighting system. Oh yeah, so it's got a extremely robust map creation system. Very, very advanced. Great. So let's build in some. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go down onto this painting area down here. I'm actually going to do. Let's we can remove out sections down here. I think we can delete. That's a little bit too large. Oh, it's because we have rounded corners. I'm just going to delete these. We only need 4. These. This. Our grates are. Traction. Subtraction. Is Yeah, that should work. Maybe I'll just use my eraser. Not. Have created something here. Remove that. No, it doesn't want to be erasing for right now. We'll come back to that, but it does usually work. All right, let's continue on our creation process. Rename that layer. Great. This is our curb. We just, if I drop this down here, we open that have to look into that. In the meantime, what we can actually do is let's make our fill that. We can turn off our stroke. A normal layer here. I'll just get these out. We're not gonna do black. We'll change that a little bit. Show you how I'm gonna adjust this. We can just do one like this, and I can change this to where I want it to be. What I'll actually do is I can come in here now. We can come into this area here, and I think what I'll do is lower down its opacity. We can also do like fade it out a little bit so that it's a little bit this. Move its edges. That's just to the outside like that. Yeah. Yeah, we can do something along those lines. Pretty good. I think for these ones, I'll finish the other stuff up after. Off stream. Nice. We can actually go into our low curb here. I'm actually going to grab these layer. That one. Oh no, it's in the current build. It's been out for quite some time. A couple of years now. Been consistently being upgraded. Let's go to where I'm going to grab that again. I want to do some little bits of texture kind of coming out from there. Yeah. Yeah, we have it's got full line of sight, dynamic lighting, all of it. A very robust system. Let's go into the winter art package. We'll grab this. And I'm gonna make this maybe like a little bit. This color, maybe a little bit more yellow. And we'll lower down the opacity. We'll make it a little bit darker. We can do these kind of like stains around them. So we have, there's lots of different ones. We have an art subscription, which is $5 a month or $50 a year, which includes all of our official art packs. So far, I've released 30 something art packages, I believe, maybe more. Thousands and thousands of images. I think I'll even do some, lower this opacity down even more. Um, it comes, if you have a standard license or higher, it comes with um, few art packages as well. Oh well, I work for Smiteworks to create these. I do the Smiteworks art production. Yeah, no problem. It's got a very robust built-in painting system as well, so you certainly don't need to have any of the art packages to create whatever you like. Yeah, for sure. As you can see, as we start to build up some of these texture layers, you can start to make some pretty convincing looking color variations. Yeah, very cool. I think before I'm going to go a little bit shorter today than normal. We'll go about another half an hour. And then what I want to actually do, and also give you guys time to ask any questions that you'd like. What I'll do is let's create our kind of lighting for the area. But to do that, we're going to first create some really basic line of sight. We'll just go into where we created our building shapes here, create our very fundamental line of sight here. Yep, they are. So this is the winter package, and what I actually use them a lot is for texture because I can make them any color I wish. But yeah, we have a full winter art pack that's like lots of different snow shapes and whatnot. You can make some pretty cool places with it. Yeah, for sure. And so what I really want to do is create some cool stuff. Let's do some basic shadows though, coming from some of these elements, and then we'll do lighting before we. So what I'll actually do is just gonna create another painting layer, and I'm gonna drop this underneath my buildings, and we're gonna go into stamp here. I'm gonna grab this image, do RG and B, bring it down to black. I'm gonna just up the blue a little bit and lower down my opacity. I'm gonna make it quite large. I'm just gonna stamp out some kind of basic. Let's gonna make it kind of oblong here. This. I'm just gonna do some basic kind of shapes here. Yeah, like this. You can see that what this does is just adds some variations here to the way that this kind of feels over here. I think I might actually come over here and lower down that opacity a little bit. I don't want it to be so intrusive as that. Then I'm going to come back. Let's go back over to our stamp. We can make it anytime we wish. We're going to actually add in some lighting here in a moment. Thanks, J-Rock. I'm going to lower down this opacity a little bit more. And let's do some little incidental shadows of this stuff. Posts. And these don't have to be like super exact or anything. Maintaining the same direction is going to help us kind of sell that feeling there, so you can see it starting to look pretty good. What I'm actually going to do at this point, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the line of sight is because it's going to help us with our lighting system. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to switch over to the player vision here. When I turn on our lighting system, you can see everything's going to go away. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our ambient lighting, and we could do sunlight, for example. It's gonna light up everything for us. Or we could do it at moonlight, dusk, dawn, and so on. Now I'm going to turn off shadows. I don't want it to cast any shadows for me. Kind of painted those in. But let's just do it at sunlight at first. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a mask. What this is going to allow me to do is to remove any sunlight from the interior of my buildings. Oh, um, I'm using a mouse. Yep, everything that I do on stream, I just do with a mouse, so it can be easily replicated. What I'm doing right now is I'm just going to do this so that we can use our ambient lighting. And out of the way. And then we can have complete control over the lighting systems that we have here. We can do our own independent lightings inside. And if we want to do like windows and whatnot, but what we'll do is we're not going to worry about our buildings right now. We're just worrying about the street. We're doing the street this way. So here we have a basic mask of gonna clean here. That's good. Great. So let's move, let's go over here, and we can kind of change our lighting here. I want to do it like, do something a little bit more on the blue side. We're going to do this at nighttime. We can just lower down our opacity here, as you can see. I'm actually going to create another layer, which will be our lights here. We don't want that layer. We want a lighting layer. Do it with another walls layer here. And then from here we can do, I'll grab torch, but I'll turn flicker off, drop that there. And so all of our lighting systems are additive. So let's go back into our ambient lighting over here, and we can do further adjustments here to make sure that this is the way that we want it to be. Depending on how much ambient light we want to have. We might want to turn this up. And bring this down. And then we might want to make this a bit lighter. A lot of ambient light in these kind of urban environments. We want to just make sure that it's enough so that we can create some different elements. Yeah, let's do something like that. Great. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go over to my selection. I'm going to grab all of these. And let's, we don't really need the bright elements to that because it's additive. It's going to add to our ambient light source. And I also want to make these a little bit more yellow. I'm going to be using color a lot in setting up these lights. Now, one of the things that we can actually do here is we can use lights and we can also use effects layers to create lots of really cool kind of effects here. One of the reasons why you want to put all of your lights on a particular layer is if you hide this layer, okay, if we go back into our ambient area over here, we could turn all of these lights off and then switch back over to daytime or whatnot. So let's say, for example, we want to make this look lit up, and maybe it's going to have a bit of a, let's do maybe green. And we're going to make this a lot smaller here. Let's go over and select this light source. Maybe we'll make it like 3. Actually, let's make it like 1. Let's do it, and I'm going to show you how we can do a couple of different things here. Let's do the same exact one again on the other side. I want to do 2 of them. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to create, as you can see if we move over here, this kind of feeling that there are like these neon-esque kind of lights coming off of our sign here. We can't really see. But now let's add an effects layer. And this, we're also going to do an adjust colors. And in here, we can create that kind of green glow, right? We're going to actually increase these elements, and we're going to create a mask. And then what I'm actually going to do, let's just do like a section of this, like that. We can blur that out. You can see we can start to make this feel like it's actually like illuminated. We can move that up. Maybe we want to make it more green. We're using our lighting system in conjunction with our other systems here to kind of get these visual effects that we want to. So now what we can actually do is create a couple of these. So if I duplicate this, right, we might want to do this a different color. So maybe we're going to do this one. And we're not going to do it in the same spot here. So I'm going to move this one, and maybe we're going to do it over here. And again, I can do exactly the same kind of scenario with my lights so that it's actually going to reflect onto my environments here. But I can use these effects layers to kind of create these really cool elements here. These cyberpunk-esque illuminations. Right, so let's go back into our lighting system down here. And then again, I'm going to match up that color pretty well. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's just do this. See how these systems are going to work together to really kind of help sell that that visual technique. We can go back into our effects layers, and we can do the same thing along particular elements like this. Let's say we want to do lots of different elements like that. Let's actually remove that one, do this one. And what I would actually do is you could do I would do 3 different effects layers or different colors, or maybe even 4. And then you can just kind of go around and start to do all this stuff up. And I would have lights that were kind of matched up to those individual colors, and then have these little ambient kind of lights that you might even want to go in just our ambient as well. Maybe we'll do it just a little bit brighter. And then we can come back in, and you can constantly come back and adjust all of this stuff. Maybe these street lights are a little bit too bright, so we can just lower down the opacity. That's really going to start to give us a really neat feel here. And if this gets, as I said before, the color system is all additive. So if our ambient light is a little bit too blue, we can just remove a lot of the color elements from that. bring it more in line with the rest of them. Yeah, yeah, you totally can. Let's do this main one right here. Then we can add a flicker to it. We could even do it flashing. So if you want to make the flashing feel erratic, there's a really cool little trick that you can do. All you want to do, you want to duplicate this flashing light, right? Let's make it feel kind of erratic. So what I'll do is I'm going to go back into my lighting system here. I'm going to grab this hexadecimal code because I want it to be the same. And we'll go back into our lighting here. Hit OK. And then we're going to do flashing. I'm going to add in another light here. And we're going to make this one bigger. Whoop. Let's do 2. So this one, we're going to make it 8. 8 as well. Let's actually make it smaller. And we're going to make this. So now it seems a little bit more random. We can change the fall off of one. Five. Make the intervals primes. Like, which ones should we use? We could even um, change one of them. Make this one a bit faster though. In this one, we can actually do a pulse. Yeah, we could do, and then this one we'll do this one a flicker. But this one should probably be a bit smaller, right? Like it's. Maybe the main one we should actually do a lot slower. Yeah, you could definitely do some little lights down here for like the traffic lights for sure. I would actually probably do on the effects layers. So it doesn't interfere with the lights as much. But you could definitely do it. You could set it to be flashing different. Sure. Might even want to make these a bit bigger. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna be calling it here. Do you guys have any questions, or is there anything else that I can help you with before we sign off for this week? Excuse me. And you could also, on that same note, oh, it's saved automatically. It's all saved. I can close this down and reopen it. It's all exactly as we had set it up. This is the map. So if we switch over, this is the actual play mode in here. We can lock that in, and this is the map. You play directly right on this. Oh, welcome back, Big Bad. Yeah, so what you could actually do, if you wanted to do like these kind of like working like street lights, and you wanted to have some control over it, what I would actually do is set up the lights in different layers, and you could just turn those layers on and off if you actually wanted to have for some narrative purpose. Oh, you can export this. So all you'd have to do is go into your modules, and you could go into export. and you could just drag and drop it right on here and export it as a module and load it into any of your other games. Yeah, but you can just build whatever you want to right in your campaign. Um, we've done lots on stream here, and you can export them as packs and then import them into any of your other games. Like we created this a while back. This one for when Spelljammer came out. We created this Spelljammer ship, and you could just export this and do that. This one we made a while back as well, which you could, which I've already exported it into. Nice little beach cliff here and like jungle. This is all made with our official art packages. All right, guys. Well, if there's no, the last call for questions before I sign off here. Yep, well, we have all kinds of cool effects layers that you can use, and lots of neat interactive kind of stuff that you can do. Yeah, you bet. So I stream every Saturday from 3 p.m. Eastern time, and I usually run till about 6. But I've had a terrible illness this week, so I'm gonna call it right now for today. But I'll be back this next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I hope you all have a great week, and we will see you all next time. Yeah, you bet, Pete Bog. Thank you. Take care, everybody.